Oh, I was ambitious over here. I have a lot of problems on this page. Sorry. All right. So, our next problem that we're going to do is 12 and 26. So, we want to find the greatest common factor of 12 and 26. So, remember how I said, if both of the numbers are even, then we can easily divide by 2. That is something I'm going to live by. If it is even and you don't know where to start, always divide by 2. Some people can figure it out immediately just by looking at it, a larger number that they have in common. And that's perfectly fine. If you know, you know. But if you are someone who struggles with trying to think of like a larger number, always start with 2. You can never go wrong with starting with 2. Okay? So I'm going to write 2 on the outside. And then I'm going to divide 12 divided by 2. And then 26 divided by 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6. And then 26 divided by 2 is 13. Now, if you did not know that at the top of your head, it is perfectly okay to go to the side and do that extra work. The one thing about me is I am going to recommend and maybe even push you a little bit to do that extra work. Math is one of those subjects you cannot be lazy in, because one little misstep and you can get the entire problem wrong. So do that extra step. Do it. It's not going to hurt you, I promise. I, however, will not do this extra step right now to save time on this video. But in your case, take that extra step if you need to. If y'all were in the classroom right now, I would have taken that extra step. But since this is a video, I will not be. So now I need to figure out what number or factor 6 and 13 have in common. So I don't really know this at the top of my head. So I'm going to do like how I've done in the previous problems. I'm going to write a table and list out the factors that they have in common. So 6, the factors of 6 is 1 and 6. And then 2 and 3. Now I'm going to write the factors of 13. 1 and 13. Is there anything else that can be multiplied together to give me 13? No. So what factor do they have in common? The only factor they actually have in common is just 1. So we're done. Since the only factor that 6 and 13 have in common is 1, we're done. We no longer have to worry about filling in the rest of the ladder. And it's okay if you don't fill it all in. So since that's the case, what is our greatest common factor of 26 and 12? It's 2, because that's the only number on this side of the ladder rung. So our GCF is 2. That was pretty easy. All right, bet. Moving on. All right, our next one. Okay, these are actually my favorite. So, remember how I said if they're both even, divide by 2. Here's another trick. If they both end in 0, divide by 10. Remember that. If both of the numbers end with 0, you can automatically divide by 10. It's already a larger number. We don't have to worry about making any extra steps by starting with 2. So again, let me say this one more time. If both of the numbers end in 0, divide by 10 every single time, okay? So I'm going to put 10 on the outside because 10 goes into 30 and 50. So I'm going to divide both numbers by 10. 30 divided by 10 is 3. 50 divided by 10 is 5. Now, I have 3 and 5. 3 and 5 are both prime numbers. So that means the only numbers that can be multiplied together to give me 3 and 5 is 1 times 3 and 1 times 5. So the only factor they have in common is 1. So what is my greatest common factor? Since I'm done, I can't factor out these numbers anymore. I can't keep dividing. I'm done with my ladder. So what is the greatest common factor of 30 and 50? The answer is over here outside of our ladder rung, and it's 10. So our GCF is 10. See, it's pretty easy, guys. It's pretty easy. All right, now I actually think I'm going to skip this problem, so 21 and 14, and 32 and 40. So if you want to on your paper, mark them out, or if you are doing it on the computer, don't do anything with it, just skip it, okay? But if you're writing this down or you've printed off the paper, just mark them out. If you're doing it on the computer, just leave it alone. But I'm gonna skip these two to save time because there is another page coming up. So now I'm gonna do 16 and 24. Okay, yeah, I thought I did that for a second. All right, so now over here I have 16 and 24. Again, you may already know the factor, a larger factor that they have in common, but I am here to assist those who don't really know of a larger number to start off with. So remember, if both of the numbers are even, we can automatically divide by 2. So I'm gonna put 2 on the outside of my ladder rung. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 2. 16 divided by 2 is 8. 24 divided by 2 is 12. So now I have 8 and 12. Again, both of these numbers are even. I can honestly divide by 2 again. Or I can do a table like how I did up here and see if I can find a larger number other than 2. So I'm going to do that. I don't know why I dragged that all the way over there. Okay. Let me erase this. So I'm going to draw a table so I can find all of the factors of 8 and 12. I always like to start off with 1. 1 is the easiest factor to do. So I'm going to do 1 and 8. And then what else can I multiply together to give me 8? You're thinking 2 and 4? You are so right. Yes. 2 and 4. And that's it. Ain't nothing else you can multiply together to give me 8. So I'm going to go down to 12. Always start with 1 because that's the easiest thing to do. What else can I multiply together to give me 12? If you think about your math facts, what is another set of numbers that you can multiply together? All right, if you said 2 and 6, that is correct. And then we have, I think there's one more set. We ought to think, what is another set of numbers that I can multiply together to give me 12? If you're thinking 3 and 4, you are also correct. And that is it. So now I'm going to circle all of the numbers that they have in common and see if there's one that's greater than 2. Because I'm saying this because if you do 2 every single time, you can have a very long ladder. And that usually takes up a lot of space. So I'm trying to help you eliminate using a lot of space.
Savante, can you come to the front office, please, with Savante?
Okay. So now I'm going to circle. So I know they have 2 in common because they're both even. But they also have 4 in common. So I'm going to use the largest one between 2 and 4. Just because, again, I'm not trying to have an extremely long ladder on my page. So on the outside, I'm going to write 4, because that is the factor I'm going to use. 8 divided by 4 is 2. And then 12 divided by 4 is 3. 2 and 3 are both prime numbers. So the only factor they have in common is 1. So we're done filling out our ladder. But like we have to figure out the GCF, remember we have to multiply the numbers on the outside, especially when there's more than 1. So 2 times 4 is 8. So the greatest common factor of 16 and 24 is 8. Okay. Now I'm going to scroll up. We're going to do this last one at the bottom, and then there is, I think, 2 word problems on the next page that we're going to go through, just so y'all are exposed to word problems. All right, so we're going to do this one. 15 and 40. Remember I said I'm skipping that one. All right, so here comes another trick. Remember when I said if they're both even, divide by 2. If they both end in 0, divide by 10. Here's one more. If one ends in 5 and one ends in 0, divide by 5. Say that one more time. If one ends in 5 and the other ends in 0, you can divide by 5. Okay? So, that's because, remember, if you count by 5s, every other number ends with the 5 and every other number ends with the 0. So that's why that's a little trick. You can automatically divide by 5. So I'm going to put 5 on the outside, and now I'm going to divide. 15 divided by 5 is what? Actually, I'm going to have y'all do this by yourself real quick. So I'm going to pause, or you can pause the video. I'm going to pause for a minute. And I want y'all to try and work this out on your own. This is really awkward when there's not kids in here. Okay, I think it's been a minute. So, if you did this by yourself, which is what I wanted y'all to do, I'm going to, remember, you should have divided both of these numbers by 5. So, 15 divided by 5 gives me 3. And then 40 divided by 5 gives me 8. Now, is there a factor in common that 3 and 8 have? Is there another factor that 3 and 8 have in common besides the number 1? If you worked this out and you saw, oh no, I'm done, you are right. The only factor that 3 and 8 have in common is the factor 1. So, if you work this out by yourself, you should have gotten the GCF equals 5. Now, there's a thing I do in my classroom. And if y'all would have been in here, and I would have said, if you got 5 as your answer, say turn up. So if you got 5 as your answer at home, say turn up. I'm going to think you said it. So, okay, great. So now, there are 2 word problems at the bottom, or on the bottom for me.